Hello, I'm Malcolm Navius, the owner of Heaven Gallery. The show is black and white with a splash of colour. There are 8 artists, each displaying 4 black and white small prints and 1 large one with colour. As you can see here with Maribel Guerrero's lips in black and white and red, and her small ones in the 4 different colours. So everybody has their own perspective and everybody has their own view and own focus on what they're hoping to show in this gallery. It's been a marvellous show and we're very happy to have them all here. This is the work of Oceanmorissette, who is a very, very well-known photojournalist who's photographed in Haiti and after the earthquake and in Cuba. And this is a series which is taken on a subway, on the subways of New York. And he's very, very clever with the way he sees the art in these everyday scenes.
I'm Dennis Carroll. I moved to Asbury Park about 14 years ago. I was immediately struck as an artist and retired art educator with these historic buildings on the boardwalk. And as a photographer, having a wealth of wonderful architecture and in connection with the vast open sky and vastness of the beach was a great area to explore. Aside from being interested in the subject matter, I actually use the subject matter to get at something else that interests me more, and that is the relationship between positive and negative space in a flat composition. I had a very charismatic freshman drawing teacher in art school who introduced us to the concept of positive and negative space by forcing us to draw with black electric tape. And I think that just opened up my eyes to a way of looking at the world. So let me begin by talking about this photograph of the power plant on the boardwalk. For a number of years I found it a very difficult subject to approach in a photograph, and then one gorgeous sunlit, flat-lit day, I was in the right place and the light and the shadows were in line, and this picture happened. But I want you to notice that what makes it work for me especially is the relationship between the solid object of the building and the sky in the background. The sky in the background is not completely flat, but it's broken up in kind of subtle shapes. And what you should also be aware of is the fact that the photograph is cropped, which means some part of the photograph is removed in order to make the composition more interesting. And so I very carefully decided where to bring the 2 edges in. And then everything else that balances this is just a kind of visceral feeling that you have as an artist and often as a viewer in terms of what makes you comfortable looking at the photograph. But in essence, I'm really interested not so much in the architecture or the landscape, but I'm interested in how the spaces sort of interact with one another. Let's talk about this picture in particular because it's the picture that most clearly depicts the theme of the exhibition, which is black and white and a splash of color. So when Malcolm invited me to the show, this photograph is the one that immediately popped into my mind as one that I should use to express that particular subject matter or point of view. And it was a serendipitous moment. It might have even been the very first winter I was in Asbury Park and the very first time it snowed. And I looked out. It was the kind of snowy day where the sky was thin, so there was light coming from the sky, and the snow was so fine it created this haze. And what I was particularly attracted to was the quality of the rail. And people often ask me if this couldn't be a photograph. It looks more like a drawing, and that's a result of the combination of the flat light and the position of everything in the photograph. But to go back to the earlier comments that I made, I want you to take notice of how the edge comes in and where, how the photograph is composed. You have this triangular shape that pulls you into the distance, and you have this very strong vertical over here, which kind of anchors this side of the photograph and is repeated by all of these verticals, and then a small horizontal back there and over here. But if you look very carefully, and I don't think you'll see it on TV, the casino building and part of the passage through the building that's left now is just barely visible in the background. So all of this together, aside from just being a kind of intellectual exercise in composition, also creates a mood or an emotional response in the part of the viewer.
Michael Miller is a well-known photographer and photographic teacher. He does tours with people all over America, the Canyon and that sort of thing, and also Italy and Venice he's been to with his clients. Here he shows 4 different views of Asbury Park. He's well known for that sort of iconic image.
My name is Maribel Guerrero, and I am part of the show Black and White and a Splash of Color. These are the pieces that I'm showing on the show, and what I chose to do for this show was to really have a lot of fun, really have a play on words and a play on the images for the black and white and the splash of color. So as you can see, it's all started with the frames, so the white and the black. Especially these pieces over here, what I wanted to do was, instead of just plain photography in black and white, I wanted to add a certain level of fun to it. So what better fun than to this monochromatic feel to also add a little bit of sparkle. So if you can see here, you'll see the sand and the sky as part of the sparkly part of the pieces, which adds to the monochromatic feel of black and white, as well as adding a little bit of a spark of fun. For the color piece, I chose to do something a little bit different. And for me, black and white and a splash of color, the color that I chose was red. However, the rest of the piece is in black and white, but I chose to pixelate it to really show that the color black is actually made up of a slew of colors. So this was really a fun show for me. It really signals the beginning of summer. I had a lot of fun creating it and really having a lot of fun showing once again here at Heaven Gallery. So if you have a chance, stop by and see it. Enjoy the rest of the show and enjoy the summer in Asbury Park. The Sparkle series is actually a photo montage. So I took the original image and I started to carve out of it. Much like my paintings, I like to work in layers. So the photo montage for the Sparkle series, both for these, which were actually shot in South Beach, and for the one of Sunflower Back, I actually take 2 photographs of the image, put them back to back, and then I carve around them and mount them on a sparkle background. So it takes a little bit of work, but it's a lot of fun.
This is the work of Tim Horn, who is a fantastic photographer, who has shown his works in the mist, all of various things in Asbury Park and further afield, like Truro up in Provincetown area. So he's really got an eye for seeing these things. Wonderfully composed and wonderfully shot.
My name is Ellen Martin. I'm very pleased to be part of this show, which is Black and White with a Splash of Color. These pieces back here are part of the Abandoned series, which I started in April of 2015. These 4 are essentially just variations on a theme of what I did as regular shots originally. And this last piece, which I was fortunate enough to sell, is actually a door on Canal Street in Manhattan. It was very colorful to start with, obviously, but then again, I just punched up the color to make it even more interesting. The interesting thing about this is the bird, which is in blue, and which just gives the door a little bit more interest. All of my shots are taken on an iPod Touch, so all the magic happens right here. This picture was taken in Ocean Grove, believe it or not, and this house is not actually tilted. The house is straight, but the reason I tilted it was to make the reflection the main part of the image. And this reflection is actually on the top of a car. It's not water or anything else. This is actually the top of a car. This happened totally by accident, another one of those very happy accidents that happens all the time in art. This piece was given to me, this location was given to me on a tip. It's in the Highlands. It's a group of about 30 buildings or little bungalows that are set for demolition. I went down there, I took about 40 shots, and one of them I thought was good enough to put in the series. And that happens all the time as well with photographers. We take hundreds of pictures and one or two actually work.
This is the work of Kevin Henkel, and we welcome him back to showing here at the gallery. His work is very diverse, and he does layers upon layers, as you can see in this particular color frame. And even in this one here, he's done a layer upon layer in that mystical farm scene.
My name is Ben Russet. I'm a photographer in Asbury Park. I'm very happy to be part of this show. I have several images in the show, two of which are from a recent trip to Prague. One is from a ghost town in Colorado, and two are from just local in New Jersey.
Black and White and a Splash of Color runs through June 5th